that's, you only see the gore stuff really in a lot of like slasher things, or as Caroline mentioned, the more like the Asian kind of things where they it's not necessarily just let's throw a whole bunch of blood out there. It's let's try to get as gory as possible and get under your skin about it. But you brought up a good thing, Sam, with the Saw movies being more psychological. And that's where I get into the side of horror that I actually really, really like. And some people go, well, that's not really horror, but it's more on the thriller side. I kind of group them together. The movies like Silence of the Lambs,
Oh,
or
so good.
The Shining to an extent, or this is a real stretch. I know people are going to be like, this is real fucking tame, you idiot. Uh, there's an indie movie called Ink, which
Oh
is,
yeah.
yeah, I consider that more on the horror side of things than clearly it's not a comedy. Like,
Right.
and I'm not gonna, if it's on my shelf, I'm not gonna put it next to Spider-Man or Terminator, or you know what, even Terminator to an extent. The first one, not the second one, is
Yeah.
a little
I'd
bit
put it
more
next to
of,
like the Dark Crystal or something. Just
actually
like
I'm not familiar with Dark Crystal.
it's a Jim
Oh my
Henson
God.
production.
It's yeah.
It's like
No, come
Kermit
on.
killing
You're not
people and
familiar.
stuff.
What? Where was your childhood? Where were you? What's going on with this?
I was watching RoboCop and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff.
Let's see. The Dark Crystal came out in '82.
Okay, that was a couple years before me then.
Caroline, how old are you?
Anyways, I'm old.
Caroline's
How
like
You don't ask a
63.
lady how old she is.
well, you haven't exactly been sounding like a lady, so
Fair enough. I am 26.
oh, you're not that old. I'm
Yeah, I'm
about to
older
turn
than you.
25.
I suddenly
Okay.
get depressed knowing I'm the oldest one again on the podcast.
Yeah,
But Dark Crystal, I'm not
um,
familiar with at all, though. Is it like the psychological kind of side of things, or is
it's
it?
not. It's marketed as if it were for kids, and kids were the ones who were seeing it. But it's a puppet film, and like it's all puppetry. It was produced by Jim Henson's company, and it's oh my, it's just it's not horror. It's not bloody or gory or anything like that.
it's
But
dark
the
though.
characters
Yeah.
are so demented that
Yeah.
it's impossible not to get creeped out by that movie.
Did
Oh,
you
come on. Really?
did you guys ever see that thing, The Adventures of Mark Twain, with that? It's a
Oh
claymation,
my god, the fucking Satan
the
part.
Satan thing. Yeah, now that's fucking creepy.
That could mess up
Oh.
any child. It almost messed me up, and I was like 19 when I watched it.
Right?
I don't know. I was born messed up, I think.
But the psychological things, I actually, the only horror movies that I own, I don't even own Ink, even if I would classify that as that. I do have to get that though. I really like that movie. The only horror movies that I own, I would say the three Hannibal films, because Hannibal Rising, that doesn't exist. Um, there's a movie Identity, which is about
Oh yeah.
uh, a bunch of people that are all trapped in this motel, and one of them is a killer, and you got to figure out who's who. And yeah, it's sort of bridging the gap between the psychological and murder mystery, so we'll throw that in here too. But staying on topic about the psychological things, those things mean so much more to me for the horror genre than anything else, because I could watch a slasher flick, and I know that it's just going to go in the same pattern. Like,
Right.
something like Halloween or whatever. Jamie Lee Curtis is going to run. The killer is going to continue chasing after her with a knife or chainsaw or whatever they were chasing after her with. If they're really dumb, like a baseball bat or something. But and the person's going to trip and fall, and it's going to be a whole big like the same kind of a thing. But if I'm watching Silence of the Lambs and I don't know who this killer is that's cutting people's skin off and sewing it onto himself, and that kind of stuff is what gets me a little bit more disturbed, because there's actually people out there that do that, and they're
Yeah.
not supernatural at all. There's not somebody getting shot and coming back to life every single movie. It's just this psychotic dude is out there as a serial killer,
Yeah,
or
just messed up in the head.
another movie that is not classified as horror, but I consider it probably the scariest movie that I own, A Clockwork Orange.
Oh my god.
That movie is fucked up.
Yeah.
And I can't watch that movie unless I'm in the mood to be disturbed for the whole rest of the night. Like, credit to Stanley Kubrick. There's only two of his movies that I own, and it's that and 2001: A Space Odyssey. 2001 is boring as hell, I'll admit that. But if you can sit through that whole movie, you can't not feel like you're astounded by the universe and that you just want to do
Yeah,
something
that's
better
true.
with your life and everything. I can't even listen to Also Sprach Zarathustra without getting goosebumps. But the same kind of applies with A Clockwork Orange. I can't watch that movie unless I am either in a happy enough mood that I can take the hit, or a bad enough mood where I can just kind of like turn into the skid. Because that
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
is fucked up. And I don't know a single person that has seen that movie that can admit that they like it without admitting that they're sort of ashamed that they like it. Most people that
Well, now you know me, so I can be on that very VIP list.
right. Well, most people are like, oh, it's too much for me, or oh, it's too boring, or any of that kind of stuff. When they get to the rape scene, that's enough for them usually.
Yeah.
But if you get somebody who does like the movie, they're like, yeah, I like the movie, but yeah, I do. Like, nobody's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's a great movie, Forrest Gump and Fight Club and A Clockwork Orange. That rape scene's awesome, dude. Like, nobody really does that. It's not the same as the first half of Full Metal Jacket. But if you're talking psychological things, we brought up The Shining earlier. Obviously, there's Ink, there's Clockwork Orange, Silence of the Lambs, lots of these different things. Um, what do you guys think about that? Is that something that has more credibility to it than the slasher things, or is that getting too much into the thriller and murder mystery kind of thing, where it's like, look, that's not horror, that's just like, a mystery, or that's just messing with your brain. It's not actually something where there's not enough blood, there's not enough people aren't getting their heads cut off left and right, so it's not horror. Like, where would you guys put that on the spectrum? Sam?
I would say in order to be a horror film, you have to be terrifying. And I don't care how you terrify the audience, whether it's psychological or not, as long as you come out of that theater either shaking or acknowledging that that's what they were going for. Like, there are plenty of just terrible horror movies that wouldn't even scare a kid, but they're still classified as horror because the intent was to terrify you. And like you said, A Clockwork Orange, like, the intent of that movie is to just leave you fucked up. So I would classify that as horror. I would also, but would you also want to call it like a psychological thriller? That's where the lines start to bleed for me a little bit. The difference between once horror and a thriller begin to like bleed in together. Caroline, what do you think about that?
I agree. I think that, well, to me, I feel like Hollywood and I guess like the media in general, we have distorted a lot of what horror movies are actually meant to be. I feel like, and even talking to my friends and my younger relatives, they all think that horror movies are, blood. And you have the killer, and the killer is chasing you, and everybody's screaming, and there's a lot of jump scares. And that's not it. Horror movies, if you look back at the very early ones, like Nosferatu or The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, all black and white silent movies, no blood, nobody chasing nobody, no jump scares, but it all comes down to touching that very tender part of ourselves that scares us and that makes us feel vulnerable. So it doesn't really matter if it's, something like Halloween or a Saw movie, or if it's like Deliverance. Like Deliverance, it's not considered a horror movie by a lot of people, but it's very freaking scary if you think about it.
Another rape scene.
It's a yeah, and a very I feel like a very graphic rape scene because what the rapist makes the victim do, like, you know, oink like a pig, squeal like a pig, like that is just wow, like that's scary, yeah. So I just feel that we just need to stop trying to label, you know, horror movies as just being like about the castle where the evil monster is. It's anything and everything, even if in the movie it's like a like considered to be drama, if there's still an element to it, and if it's like a crime drama, for instance, where it touches you in some level that you just you feel vulnerable and you're scared, absolutely. It doesn't matter.
Like Deliverance does.
No, I'm still trying to find that one. It's just not gonna happen anytime soon. But yeah, like I remember watching Deliverance. I actually watched Deliverance in a horror class in college, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, but that's not a horror movie." And it's just like, "Really? Do you want to rewatch that rape scene right now?" And everybody was quiet. And then they realized that, yeah, you know, we don't need a bloody knife every time. There's a lot more that can really scare you.
Yeah.